Hi everyone, so I'm going to give a quick tutorial on how to use VSCO, which is the app that I'm mentioning in the blog post above, and also the app that I'm currently showing on my screen right now. So when you open VSCO, which is available for free in the Apple Store, you find this main studio dashboard. You can import photos from your camera roll into this dashboard and then access them inside the VSCO app. So I'm going to show you an example of how I tend to edit photos within VSCO. So I'm going to click on this photo here of these tacos that I had the other night with a couple coworkers at one of our customers. Shout out to Adelita in Concord, Massachusetts. But when I begin the editing process, I look at the photo. Here you can tell it's just taken from my iPhone. Nothing's been done to it, no enhancements. It's on the table at the restaurant. It was outside, so naturally the photo is pretty bright, I would say. But my goal with editing is to enhance everything that's already naturally in the photo. I don't want to make it too edited, but I still want to make it pop a little bit more than it is right now. So on the bottom of the VSCO app, you'll see the little editing button, which I just clicked, and it first brings you to a bunch of different filters. Instagram itself has a lot of filters, but for some reason I've just been using VSCO for so long at this point that I appreciate and I know the VSCO filters really well. So you have some lighter filters with like the darker undertones, black and whites. You can search through and see the different filters available. And then once you click on a filter, for example, C1, which I do tend to use for a lot of my photos, if I click into that filter, I can adjust the strength of filter I want to apply to the photo. So you can see on the lower end, it's less applied. The higher end, it's more applied. So I kind of like to use a happy medium. I'm going to go with around 6.8 for the C1 filter. Then I click the check mark and it saves the filter. If I put my finger over it, shows you can see the difference between the filter versus no filter. So I'm going to keep it like this for now. I like how it looks. In general, I personally think that I tend to use warmer color schemes. So the C1 filter is more on the warmer side opposed to, for example, I'll go back to A5. Those colors are a little bit darker, even if you make the palette a little bit less. So I'm going to go back to C1 and back to 6.8. How I had it before, 6. Yep, there we go. And then if you go to the second tab on the bottom, you'll continue your editing process. So the tips that I usually try when I'm editing photos, I'll go into the sharpen feature, which basically just enhances and makes the photo more defined. Sometimes if a photo is blurry on its own, just the way it was taken, it was a little blurry, I'll apply the sharpen filter, but other times I'll just add it as an extra way to enhance what's already in the image. So I'll hover over again. So it shows when you click the before and after, it's a combination of the filter and the sharpen. But I just know personally, I like to sharpen around maybe 5-ish. You don't want to go too sharp because it's a little hard to tell here, but sometimes making it too sharp is just really obvious and it looks super edited. So maybe do a little less, around 4.2. So that's the sharpening filter. I also look at the adjust filter. So I mentioned in my blog post, but when I'm capturing food images, I try to keep everything behind the food as clean as possible so as to keep the focus on the food. And in this case, the photo is the plates and there isn't much distracting, but if you can see in the upper right hand corner, there's a little silverware utensil up there. So I'm just going to crop that out by making it a little bit smaller. And then I'll just drag the square up a little bit. VSCO itself has a lot of pre-made sizes like you can see below. So I just made it a little bit smaller, focusing a little deeper on the photos. I can adjust as I want. And I'm going to keep it like this. And there's a certain artistic factor to it, in my opinion, of like cropping the edges of the plates. I think that's fine. I think it makes it, like I said, a little artistic, but also I think it can also look nice when you have the full plate in the photo. So it kind of just depends on your preference, and also maybe differentiate the photos. You can vary some of them showing full plates, some of them cropped at different angles. Like I mentioned in the blog post, angles show a bunch of different things, and you can play with angles when you're taking your photos. So to continue on with the VSCO features, I use the sharpen, I use the adjust, I use the main filter. I'm going to use the saturation. You can make it more saturated or less saturated are the extremes. Like I said before, I like the warmer colors, so I'm just going to do 0.05. It doesn't make a huge difference, but I just personally like it that way. And then you can look at the tone, I think is a cool one for some photos. In the case of the food, it's not a big deal. Shadows, you can make the shadows higher or lower. I'm just going to X out because I'm not going to use that. The white balance I do like. So if you're on the temperature, you can go towards a warmer temperature or you can go towards a cooler temperature. Again, up to your discretion, but I'm going to go in the warmer direction and then tint darker, lighter. I kind of like how it looks with the pinks opposed to the greens. Again, that's my preference. Okay, and then skin tone is cool when you have people in the pictures because it can adjust the colors of their skin. We have a couple other things that can play with the borders, so it makes it a little bit darker along the outsides. Grain can make, if you can tell, it's like a little bit grainier. That's definitely a vibe for some things, but for this case, I like the clear look of the photo. And then there are a couple other features. There's also some features that you can buy, which are locked on my account because I just use the free account. But yeah, so this is the basic overview for VSCO, and then I can save the photo. And actually, I'm going to go back into it. So this is the edited version. This is the non-edited version. In my opinion, I love how this one looks. It's bright, it pops, but it's not overly edited or taking away from what's in the photo itself. So I'm going to save this. Something cool also about VSCO, if you go to the top right corner, you can save to your camera roll, but you can also go into this photo that you just edited, click copy edits, and I copied all the changes that I made on this photo. And then if I wanted to go into this one, which is the same thing, but just slightly different, I can click paste edits, and those are the same edits on that photo. So I can do that for anything. This is another angled photo I took. I like the other one much better, but I can paste the edits just to see what it would look like with those color filters. And then I posted these photos on Triple C Instagram a couple weeks ago, but then if you look in this drink photo, for example, I could also paste the edits. So I like to do this because it keeps the photos in the same color pattern. So you could use this VSCO feature when you're trying to maintain a color scheme within your feed, and then you can change based on the photo filters that you already had. You can keep those same photo filters consistent, etc., etc. So I hope that helped a little bit with how to use VSCO. And I use this for all the Triple C editing. And then once I place them in Instagram, they're already edited. So I don't have to do much else in there. So I hope this was helpful.